Okay, so we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and 34. I really don't expect us to hit 34. It's possible, but that is the extreme of the extreme. As in, we're not going to find any other group that is more extreme than that in the world. So my example is Jehovah's Witnesses shun people. That is the maximum number. That would be 21. But certain Muslim sects just throw people off roofs. So that's 34. You can't get more extreme than throwing them off roofs or torturing them or something. So I don't expect us to hit 34 for anything on here. We might, but keep that in mind. It goes 0 to 21. And 0 is, the question doesn't apply to them. I doubt we're going to find any zeros in here. I haven't found any zeros in any religion so far. So I would find a 0 if we're applying the bite model to eating cookies, because it just doesn't apply, right? So anyway, so the first one on the list here is promote dependence. So, where do you think they fall on that? Don't tell me, just pick one.
Yep, gotcha.
I don't really know. That's why you're here. So I'm going to take a wild guess at this right now. Okay.
All right.
Oh, wait a minute. What's this button here? Interesting. Okay. Finish voting. So you said 21. Why did you say 21?
Because I was tempted to go even higher because they promote dependence like no other. They isolate you completely from your family. They stole children from people for daring to leave. Like, they would hold their children hostage and not allow them to go. I mean, it doesn't get more extreme in behavior control. Like, promoting dependence.
Okay.
You cannot leave. You are fed, you are paid, you are clothed by the community.
And do they isolate their members at all from the rest of society?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're in an enclosed community. You don't need anything from the outside world. Your God lives there. So.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to the next one then. Modify behavior with rewards and punishments. Okay. I think that the most extreme version of this would be punishing them with torture or something and rewarding them with what little praise they may get or something like that.
See, I feel like the most extreme version of punishment is you are killed for the action. But I guess it doesn't modify.
The most terminal, but it's not necessarily the most extreme. I'd say torture is probably the most extreme.
Alright, if we're going with that mentality.
But, so that would be a 34. That is the most extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to say 21. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going 34. I don't think it gets more torturous than stealing your children. I don't think there is a greater torture you could inflict on a person.
Okay. Dictate where and with whom you live. They did live on a compound, right? Like prior to moving to Guyana, they lived on a compound, didn't they?
Well,
or no?
They were not. No, not really. No.
Okay.
That was sort of his like magnum opus. This is the place. We're all going to go to this place eventually. But they were more free roving prior to moving.
Okay, well, I guess that we can just kind of say that I guess we can assume that this is after they moved to Guyana because that's when they hit their cult prime, right?
Yeah.
So, all right.
Mm.
Really?
That's funny. Yeah, I went one down because they had a few different communities. There were a couple other places that you were allowed to be and still be considered in the cult.
Okay. Well, 21 is appropriate. I think we're going to try to steer clear of 34, though, because generally it's just 0 to 21. And 34 is like literally the most extreme thing that you can possibly imagine kind of thing.
I think if there was ever a cult that justified a 34, it's this one.
Okay. All right. Well, next story. Restrict or control sexuality. I'm going to say, all right, the most extreme version I can think of is Heaven's Gate, where they they weren't allowed to think sexual thoughts, and if they did, they reported those thoughts in front of everybody at the dinner or at the breakfast table, and were shamed for it. They had their junk cut off and stuff.
Yep. That's what I was gonna say.
So that happened in Jonestown, or?
Nope.
No, okay. So that would be the most extreme. So, but what did Jonestown do?
Well, Jim Jones was very fond of saying that he was the only heterosexual male on the entire planet, and that all other males were either bisexual or homosexual. So he needed, of course, to have sex with them to help them discover their own homosexuality, which they definitely had. And also to bond with him. But so I would say that's a little sexually manipulating, as none of them were.
It definitely is very controlling, restricting and controlling. But, I'm going to put it as a 21 myself anyways, because it's different than Heaven's Gate, but it's just as bad.
Yeah, I mean, I went ahead and knocked it down one because there was an aspect of the men were willing to do this to a certain extent because they believed he was God, and so they thought, oh yeah, I'll fuck God, no problem.
Yeah, sure, it was a willing thing, but it was still a controlling thing because.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, control clothing and hairstyle. So, Heaven's Gate. Like, they all got the same bowl cut, and they all wore the same white, plain garments. That would be the most extreme version, I would think. So what about Jonestown? Did he control hairstyle or clothing at all, really, or not as much?
No, not really. No, he was pretty chill on the whole thing.
Really? Okay. Well, I'm putting 1 because I'm sure he did it on some level at the very least.
Sure, yeah.
So,
I mean, they all do.
The question does apply to him, so, okay. Regulate what and how much you eat and drink. This is like, this question is commonly applied to situations where you have people like, who are preventing people from eating or drinking to make them more manipulatable, make them more malleable. So did he do any of that really, or not as much?
See, I'm conflicted on this because every meal, everything that they had came from the commune, which of course was overseen by him. So it's not as though they had an abundance, but I don't know if he was using it deliberately to manipulate people, or if that just happened to be a side effect.
All right,
I don't really know.
I'm going to put 3 in that case just because it happened, so.
Yep,
Okay.
I agreed.
Deprive you of 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Did he try to deprive them of sleep in an attempt to make them more malleable at all?
See, this is interesting because when they first like when he first arrived at the commune, people had already been living there and they were thriving. But when he got there, he changed things up. He started a 12-hour workday, followed by a ridiculous amount of study of communism and
Sure.
just propaganda.
Sure.
So, I mean, there was sleep deprivation, but eventually he did stop doing this. He shortened the work days. It was 7 days a week also at first. He shortened it to 5 days a week, 8-hour days, with some prodding.
Okay, then in that case, I'm going to put, I mean, he did do it at some points, but it wasn't super extreme, so I'm putting an 8. Oh, nice.
Yep.
All right. Okay, next one is exploit you financially. Now, this one is a little interesting because he was like a communist / socialist, right? And
yeah.
So every penny that they made all went into the communal pool, I guess, which he did with what he would.
Yep. As he was God, so.
Right, so literally every penny they got went to him, and they just got what he wanted them to have. So I'm going to say 21.
I went 34. I cannot imagine a more manipulative system.
Yeah, I'm going to go 34 also. Okay. Next, restrict leisure time and activities. So, like you said, they had a 12-hour work day or whatever, but for a while there. But how heavy was the study? Did they have any time to relax and hang out and do what they wanted to do? Or was it basically all either taken up with work or study, pretty much?
Yeah. In the beginning, it was a very strictly regimented schedule. You did get an hour for lunch, I believe.
Wow,
for
an hour.
a meal. Yeah, a whole hour out of your 16-hour day.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was heavily regimented.
That was in the beginning, but eventually it cooled down.
Kind of, because they did not have as strict of a schedule, but he blasted sermons 24/7, so it was like, yeah, you can relax, but you're going to listen to me speak.
Sure. Okay.
So you're going to continue to be indoctrinated even while relaxing.
Okay, interesting. All right, well, in that case, I'm actually going to put a 13. Okay, cool. We're in agreement on that one. Require you to seek permission for major decisions. Now, this is things like marriage or getting a house or getting a car. Now, those things may not necessarily apply in these cases, but what other major decisions did he, like, leaving the compound? That was required, right?
Oh, yeah, you had to have express written permission from him.
Okay,
to be able to go off compound.
So is it fair to say that, you know, you required permission for major decisions?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you weren't allowed to buy houses. I guess where you lived at all was controlled by him, so.
All right, well, I'm going to say 13, actually, because there were some things they could do.
Yeah, I guess I'll go 13 also.
Okay, deliberately withhold and distort information.
He was the king of propaganda, the king of it.
Okay, interesting. I'm gonna say 21 then.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's see. Forbid you from speaking with ex-members and critics. Now that like heavily regulated, them communicating with ex-members or critics?
Well, I mean, they certainly weren't allowed to communicate with ex-members as they were the lowest of the low, obviously.
Sure.
As all ex-members are from any religion.
Sure.
But critics, he did eventually allow critics onto the compound. Now, granted, that resulted in not good things happening.
Yeah, but that was
But
eventual. That wasn't like a regular thing. Like they could come and go and talk to people and see family. It was like a one-time event. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was really no outside information was really allowed, so
all right, I'm gonna say 21.
yeah.
Discourage access to non-cult sources of information.
I
We're
accidentally just kind of covered that.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Okay, we'll say. All right, I'm gonna say 21 for that one too.
Yeah. It was constant study of communism, and he took away their movies. Like, they had all enjoyed watching movies
Right.
for leisure time before he showed up, and then he replaced them with communist propaganda
That's
movies.
crazy.
Yeah, he was the king of it.
Okay, so divide information into insider versus outsider doctrine. I've seen some of that from him, where he would talk about how, the Christians were wrong and he was right. They were all correct and the others were wrong. Saw a lot of that. And I see that with, like, Jehovah's Witnesses, too, so I would say that the most extreme version is probably the Westboro Baptist Church being a 21, and Jehovah's Witnesses maybe being a 13 or maybe even an 8 with that. So where would you put him on divide information into insider versus outsider doctrine? We're assuming that I guess we're basing this off of when he arrived in South America, because that is, like I said, that's when the cult reached its prime.
Yeah, I mean, I would hit, I don't know, either 13 or 21.
Let's just estimate low. I'm going to estimate low just to be safe.
Yeah, I did. I did as well.
Generate and use propaganda extensively. All right.
King of it.
Yeah. Okay. Use information gained in confession sessions against you. So this is like where Jehovah's Witnesses will get you to confess to doing something wrong, and then they will use it to disfellowship you. Or even worse, they'll hold it above your head and say, if you don't do what we want you to do, then we're going to tell your wife you did this or that.
Funnily enough, I don't think he actually did this much.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, where would you put him? What did you put?
I went 2.
Okay. Cool. Gaslight to make you doubt your own memory. Do you know what gaslighting is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that either. He really tried to predict the future to make you think there was no way that this future was not going to happen. But I don't know about the past.
Okay, then I'm just putting a 3 personally, because I'm sure he did it on some level. I mean, this is the kind of thing you find in cults all the time, so.
Yeah.
Require you to report thoughts, feelings, and activities to superiors. So this is like Heaven's Gate, where they had to report their sexual feelings in the morning at breakfast.
Yeah, I mean, this one is also hard because you couldn't have the thoughts, feelings, like, you could not have those. If you had them, then you better shut up, because you were going to be, like, removed immediately.
This is general thoughts and feelings. This is like, this isn't negative, like, oh, I'm having doubts or something. This is just...
Oh, okay.
This is just regular old, like, reporting thoughts and feelings and activity. Like, you have to tell somebody, you have to report to somebody what you did that day, that kind of thing, and what you thought about that day.
Yeah, I'd put that pretty high then.
Where'd you put it?
13.
Okay, cool. Encourage you to spy and report on others' misconduct.
Yeah, I'd say that was definitely pretty strong. The best evidence of this was when one of the members, when the members left to go to the airstrip, one of them was a spy. Like,
right.
So I mean, one of them was sent explicitly to see what the defectors were going to say and do.
Sure. So what about like inside the cult with the individual members? Like in North Korea, you find people will, like, a third of the population will rat on you if you do something wrong, is what they say about North Korea. So the question about Jonestown is, does that kind of thing happen? Do you find regular members reporting misdeeds or misconduct to the authorities? Children in Westboro Baptist Church are told to report on their siblings if they do something wrong. Is that the kind of thing we saw here, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that even without being explicitly told to do it, most of them still would have, just for the possibility of praise.
Okay. All right. I said 13 because it may or may not be explicit, but it's part of the culture at the very least. So, okay. Instill black versus white, us versus them, good versus evil thinking. I mean, he certainly spoke out against other religions about Christianity and things like that on a regular basis, right? And
see, even without taking religion into account, communism versus capitalism. That was his big thing, and capitalism was absolutely disgusting and evil, and communism was perfection.
Okay. Well, in that case,
anyone who wasn't a communist was awful.
I actually marked Westboro Baptist Church as 21 on this one because they're so good versus evil, black and white thinking on that. So, you know what? I'm going to say 21 on this one too.
Yeah, me too. It's just so deeply instilled. That's what all the propaganda is for. Yeah.
Okay. Change your identity, possibly even your name. Did they do any name changing there? Did they go by like brother this or sister that, or did they actually change their names? Like in Heaven's Gate, they had names like oh shoot, what were they? Let me look it up.
Okay.
We had things like oh God, I need to find this.
Yeah, I don't remember them at all.
They were like really, really weird. They had like 3 consonants together, which is really uncommon in words, and generally it's really hard to pronounce typically when you find that. Okay. They all ended in ODY for one thing.
Oh, right.
So you had Ursodi, Sorodi, Nerodi, Alxodi, Guldodi, Persodi.
Those sound like diseases.
Anlodi. You're thinking Oma. That's cancer. Carcinoma, melanoma.
No, those first few definitely sounded like diseases.
Ursodi. Okay, well, anyways, Osis is another one. Anyway, did they change names like that, or no? Did they still go by their same names?
Yeah, they kept their names.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he just didn't do that.
Did he go by brother or sister or anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, then I'm just putting it at, alright, we'll put it at a 1. Use loaded language and cliches to stop complex thought. So that's like Jehovah's Witnesses saying something like, that's what you get with an apostate, or that's what you get from the world. That's what you can expect to find in the world, right? That's a cliche that they say all the time, and they all understand what it means, but nobody really on the outside knows, you know?
Right.
So did
Yeah,
he
he did.
use language like that, like cliches that only they really understood, that would stop them from analyzing the situation any further?
Yeah, he did something very similar. Once again, going back to communism, it was and socialism. It was, this is not how a socialist blanks. This is how a capitalist blanks. Like, this is not how a socialist reads. This is how a capitalist reads. Like,
That's interesting. Okay, wow. Huh.
yeah, it was very. That was actually one of the things that he used in his death sermon to convince people. He said, you know, they are going to come and torture us, and that is not how socialists die.
I heard
Socialists
that.
die in peace. Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's pick one then. Okay. All right, I'll switch to 13 then.
Yeah, I didn't want to go to full 21 because I think it could have been worse.
All right. Induce hypnotic or trance states to indoctrinate.
This he absolutely did. He had a call and response sort of preaching where he would say something and then the crowd was expected to respond. He would yell out a Bible verse. He would say, you know, John 3:16, and then they would have to quote it back to him.
Sure, okay. And also praying and singing counts.
Oh yeah.
In that too.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it was constant, and the sermons were constant, and they were blasted on loudspeakers throughout the entire compound, recorded and live. Like, it was a very, and they would do this for hours and hours and hours, and this call and response. So, it was just very hypnotic.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think I can imagine a worse case, but really, you think it's about as bad as it can get?
Yeah, I do. He was really good at doing that. He really knew what he was doing with human psychology there.
Okay. All right. Teach thought-stopping techniques to prevent critical thoughts. This is a lot like the loaded language kind of thing. It's a big part of the psychology behind the cults. Did he teach people how to turn their thoughts around, turn them towards something different in an effort to avoid things? Like, for example, my mom was taught by an elder how to repress a memory, quote unquote. You close your eyes. When you think about it, you close your eyes, physically turn your body in the other direction, and then start talking about something else, even just to yourself out loud, talking about something unrelated, that kind of thing. Did they do any of that kind of thing?
You know, something just occurred to me when we were talking about the name changing. He was father. None of the other people changed their names, but he was father or dad. I can't believe I didn't think of that. But that was one of the things he used. Father says.
Right,
you know,
that's loaded language. That's definitely
and so
playing into
once
it.
father has decreed something, no more thinking about that.
Right.
Father said that this was going to happen. Father said that this was the way to think. So stop, full stop. There's no questioning. Father said it.
That's very interesting. Okay. Well, in this case, I'm going to say, I'm going to actually give him a pretty low number. Really?
Yeah. I don't think a 21 is justified, but I think a 13 is. Just because it was so easy. It was just one blanket statement. Father says, and then that's the end of that. Okay. I just think the ease at which he could use it, like, there wasn't anything to, like, teach them. It was just, I'm God, done.
Sure. Okay. allow only positive thoughts. Did he allow only positive thoughts, or were, like, Jehovah's Witnesses, they want people to put on this mask, this fake persona, this idealized view of things. Is that the kind of thing you find with this, or were they okay to complain sometimes to, like, their brother or something?
Well, in public, like, once outsiders entered the compound, it was absolutely, you put that mask on and you do not break.
Of course.
But when they were on their own, it wasn't nearly as rigid. You were encouraged to, share your feelings with Father, and Father would help you, usually with sex.
Okay, well, in that case, I'd actually give him a pretty low number. I'd say 5, personally, because it did happen. It wasn't really a big problem, right?
Yeah, I think if outsiders had been around more, it would have been.
Right, and that's part of the reason why I gave it a 5, too, because it was required sometimes at the very least.
Yeah.
So, we'll go with that. Okay. Now we've got use excessive meditation, singing, prayer, and chanting to block thoughts. I'd give that a really high score, personally. I'd say 13 myself.
I'm 21. I mean, it was constantly through the loudspeakers, constantly the call and response. I think it's just too much. I don't know what else. I don't know what could be more excessive.
Okay, I'll go 21 then. Reject rational analysis, critical thinking, and doubt. What do you think on this one? I would say the worst case I can think of with this is borderline gaslighting. Like telling somebody that something is not true and it very obviously is. And, yeah, I mean, that would be my best example of that. That would be a 21 for me. Where would you put him on this scale, you think? I'm going to say, just guessing, because I don't really know that well. I'm going to say a 13 myself.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He kind of did the reverse, where it was, this thing is going to happen, like, this thing is happening, even though it's clearly not.
Sure.
Which I guess, I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah, I think I can agree with 13.
Okay. And we've got instill irrational fears of questioning or leaving the group.
See, I'd argue with irrational, because I think they were entirely rational fears, but they were definitely instilled.
Well, what about this? Did he ever give them anything like saying, you're gonna go to hell, or you are gonna, the world's just gonna eat you alive, or...
Yeah, you'll be miserable if you're no longer a part of the family.
Okay. I'm gonna say 21 then.
Yeah. I would argue that most of the fears were rational, but
Sure. But we're talking fictional fears. Fears that are, like, I'm thinking fears that aren't real, like phobias and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, he definitely did. You're never going to be happy outside of this group.
Okay.
The whole world is evil and racist.
Right. Okay. Label some emotions as evil, worldly, sinful, or wrong. Like, did he label love as wrong, or any kind of emotions or thoughts or anything?
Well, he did heavily mediate, you were not allowed to have sex outside of marriage, you were not allowed to have any kind of lustful thoughts, you were not allowed to masturbate. I mean, that's not as much of an emotion as an action.
No,
but I'd say you weren't allowed to feel lust.
Tied. I would say that's kind of a baseline thing that a lot of Christian groups do, which, of course, his group wasn't necessarily Christian at its heart, of course. Sure. But I'm actually going to give him All right, I'm gonna give him a 3 for this.
See, I think I'm inclined to give him a little bit higher because he actually uses this to his advantage. The prevention of any kind of masturbation or lustful thoughts, any kind of sex outside of marriage, it made his members more pliable and more agreeable to have sex with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think just because he manipulated this and used it to his advantage, it should go a little higher.
Wow. Okay. Teach emotion stopping techniques to prevent anger or homesickness. Now, we see this in Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, where they try to help people through shunning their family members, or in Heaven's Gate, they would teach them how to deal with not seeing family members and things like that. Did he do any of that, teaching the members how to deal with not seeing their family? Certainly they dealt with that problem.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a mentality of once they're gone, they're dead. They are traitors.
Did it come back down to fucking them? Is that what ended up happening? He would just end up fucking the people to make them feel better again?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably. He had so much sex with so many people.
I'm going to just take that clip of you saying that and post it on YouTube with zero context behind it.
I accept this.
Okay.
That's fine with me. There's no use fighting.
Teach emotion stopping techniques to prevent anger or homesickness. I think I'm going to put him at an 8. Okay, a 13.
Yeah, I went 13. I mean, you're not supposed to be emotionless. You're supposed to be hate-filled, but like, you're not supposed to prevent the anger. You're supposed to cultivate the anger against those who have left. Well,
it's still manipulating their feelings.
Yeah.
Teaching them techniques to manipulate their emotions like that, I would say it still counts.
Yeah. Yep.
Promote feelings of guilt, shame, and unworthiness. Did any of them ever feel that way, or did he make them feel pretty special generally?
Yeah, see, I think he made them feel pretty special, but I also heard some members talking to other members saying, you were nothing without him. You were nothing before he came into your life.
You're right. I did hear some of that.
So I don't think that he necessarily pushed it, but I don't think he discouraged that.
No, he definitely didn't. I listened to that recording. Okay, I'm going to put a 13 for that one.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. We've got 4 left. Shower you with praise and attention, or love bomb you. Did they do any of that? Like when somebody walked into their church, did they just... Okay, for example, when Leo Ryan showed up at the compound, did they all just shower him with love and praise and show how great it was?
Oh yeah, they had a big reception for him, despite the fact that they did not want him there at all.
Right.
And he pretty much knew that too, but he loved the place. He thought it was amazing. The first day that he was there, that first night, he was loving it. He thought it was the best place ever. Everybody loved each other so much, and they took such good care of each other, and they were so nice to him.
Okay. Well.
And like I said, Jim himself, he used love and affection to manipulate people constantly. It was, if you need me to be your father, I'll be your father. If you need me to be your friend, I'll be your friend. If you need me to be your God, I'll be your God. Like, I will be anything you need me to be. I am here for you 100%, and I love you unconditionally.
That is crazy. Okay, so threaten your friends and family. I'd give him a real high score for this one, considering that he'd kidnapped children and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, he just stole children. Like, you can't leave. If you leave, your kids are staying. He also separated children from their parents, even when the parents were still in the compound. Like, the kids were raised communally. They didn't have parents.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Shun you if you disobey or disbelieve.
100%.
Yeah, I would say that's... Is it as extreme as Jehovah's Witnesses, would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Teach that there's no happiness or peace outside the group. They're pretty extreme about this one too, weren't they?
Yep. Yeah, again, easy 21 for me. It's absolutely capitalists are miserable. They are just wretched. They are racist. They are just horrible, horrible people who are miserable.
Okay, then we finished. So here's what I'd like to do. Well, you know what? Actually, we have our estimates here. I'm wondering if I can go back and redo some. It's
Yep.
really extreme.
They almost wrote the book on cults.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that is all I needed. I appreciate you coming on and doing this with me, so I'll talk to you later on, okay?
All right, bye.